There seems to be a big, I wouldn't call it a problem, but definitely a massive, massive change when it comes to car design in general. Now that we're moving into more EVs, more plug-in hybrids, the design has to change. And we have the new Lexus ES here, which if when we compare, I'm going to show you, compare it from a front, side, and rear, and also the interior, obviously, with probably the laziest integration of screens in the interior for the new ES, but thankfully it is disconnected from the gauge cluster. More on that when we jump into Photoshop. But the change here is cars are becoming more bulky, they're becoming stubbier, they're becoming taller, and less elegant and more product designy. This is a great example of exactly that when we compare the old ES, organic, beautiful, elegant, stretched out proportions, and to this one, which became more of a robotic product design, EV design, sitting taller, of course, because we need to have a battery underneath. And that is what's going on in the car design industry today. You have the same changes for the Volvo ES90, compare that to the S90, for example. Also a great example of what I'm talking about. But before we jump into Photoshop here, and let you know what I think about this design. Let's see what this car is all about from this article from Motor One. So the new Lexus ES has hybrid and electric power, which is great to see. Although the outgoing ES received two facelifts, it couldn't hide the fact that it was getting long in the tooth. Lexus introduced the 7th generation model back in 2018, and the all-new 2026 ES brings major updates both inside and out. So the design remains a bold departure from the model it replaces. We're happy to see the oversized grille is finally gone. However, I didn't think it looked oversized on the old ES. I think it looked perfectly fine. It just suited the overall dimensions of the old ES. Although the heavily sculpted profile with its thick gloss black trim extending across the doors might be a bit polarizing. You can see that right here. Again, does it feel organic and beautiful? I don't know. Probably not. There is also a charging port now on the front fender, signaling the arrival of a fully electric ES, which will be sold alongside the familiar hybrid. Out back, the taillights have been reimagined. The lower-mounted L-shaped elements now house the turn signals, while the reverse light sits below, and a fog light is mounted on each side as well. The classic badge has been replaced with the large Lexus lettering across the upper light bar, which I think looks very, very nice. I do like the old logo as well, but this is also a trend that companies are starting to do now, just spelling out the name of the company, the brand, instead of having the logo of the brand. So the cabin has embraced a minimalist design, trading traditional buttons for a simplified layout. You have a 12.3-inch digital instrument cluster, which is great because it does look like it does have a housing for it, which is exactly what I want. And then you have a 14-inch infotainment touchscreen dominating the dash. Now you have the option of have dual screens. I do believe, could this be dual 14-inch screens right next to each other? I don't know, but it definitely looks like it. And I can tell you this, it doesn't look great. Definitely does not look better than the old ES, and I don't think we're heading in the right direction when it comes to interior design, and probably not exterior design either when it comes to car design. But here you can see the dual setup of the screens here. I mean, what a lazy approach to design an interior. This is just so disappointing. We're going to talk more about that in a minute in Photoshop. So the steering wheel now features embossed Lexus branding instead of the usual badge, and the old gear lever has been replaced by a more compact selector. The new ES is significantly larger than its predecessor. I honestly don't know when we're going to stop with making every successor to the previous model be just larger than the old one. When is it gonna stop? I don't want to have larger cars. I want them to shrink back to a normal size. Otherwise, we're gonna have to redesign the entire infrastructure and roads and stuff like that if cars are just gonna keep growing. So this is 6.5 inches longer than the old one. It's also 2.1 inches wider than before, and it is also taller. And this is the big issue I have with sedans these days. I mean, thankfully, we're still making sedans, which is great. But when we have EVs and hybrids like this with a battery pack, the proportions just look like a lifted sedan, like an off-road, like a Crown Signia, the Toyota. That's what every single sedan looks like these days. 4.3 inches taller than before, and that means that we lose the beautiful elegance and the flow and the stretched out organic proportions of the old ES. Those are completely gone in this new ES, and we have more of a product design feel. So 2 hybrid powertrain options based on the 2-liter and 2.5-liter engines. However, you only get one here in the States, and that is going to be the 350H, and that is a choice between front-wheel drive or all-wheel drive. Total system output varies from 194 horsepower for the electric 2-liter powertrain to 244 with the bigger engine. Pretty disappointing numbers here. The ES is still a rather big sedan. You know, you have the IS, ES, LS, so it's sort of there in the middle 5 Series proportions, and just having 244 horsepower doesn't seem like a lot. The slowest of the bunch takes 9.4 seconds 0 to 60, and the 244 horsepower goes 0 to 60 in 7.8 seconds. Then you have, of course, the fully electric ones. Comes in front-wheel drive ES 350E and all-wheel drive ES 500E. You have 221 horsepower in the low. In the 350 with 8.9 seconds 0 to 60, maximum range of 426 miles. However, that is very, very optimistic. On the US cycle, it's more closer to 300 miles. So he drops 126 miles when you compare to the US spec. The dual motor variants up the power ante to 338 horsepower. And 0 to 60 about 5.9 seconds. That's a lot better, but it's still a heavy car. It's going to take a hit when it comes to the range. And only, decent 379 miles of range. But that is also on the optimistic cycle. So it's probably closer to 300 here as well on the US cycle. So wheel sizes ranges between 18 to 21 inches. Yes, the 21 inches is definitely going to affect the range, but I don't care. I'm going to go with 21 inches anyway. And it goes on sale middle of 2026. So with that said, let's jump into Photoshop and let's have a look at this design. Learn design sketching online with me. My online class is now only $47. If you have any desire to pick up the skill of sketching products using simple tools such as just a big pen and some cheap print paper, this is something you want to check out. Now, over the years, I've taught over thousands of students from all around the world how to sketch cars and products using my simple sketching techniques, and most of them have seen amazing results from my classes. Analog Designer Pro Pack is the full bundle of all my classes I've released over the years, and it's yours for just $47. You also have a lifetime access to all the videos. Check out everything that's included and see what my students have to say in the link in the description, or simply visit analogdesignerpropack.com. Now, looking at the front end here, this is the key differences here is going to be that we have now a completely new philosophy when it comes to car design, in not just when it comes to Lexus, but when it comes to a lot of brands these days. We're losing the organic vibes of car design today, and instead we're going into a much more robotic styling that you can see in the new ES here. This is a really good example of what I'm talking about. I did think that the headlight unit here for the ES, look, maybe they went a little overboard with the styling for the headlight unit. You can see that we have one corner right here going into another corner and then going into a third corner. It gets a little, curvy or a little zigzaggy in the headlights, but it is Lexus styling. We're used to seeing it from Lexus. We also have this beautiful line going underneath the headlight here into the bumper, looking very clean and fluid. And they say that some people thought that this grille looked oversized, but personally, I honestly don't think it looked oversized for this. Some cars just has this ability to have a massive grill in the front end and make it work. Lexus is one of these. Genesis is another great example of that. It all depends on how we place with the rest of the graphics of the front end. But look at the fluid lines that we have in the front end here and compare it now to the new ES, which feels like a product to me instead of an automotive piece of art. We have this line up here, and I'm not sure what is going on with this line going down from the A-pillar. It might be the angle, but it looks like the strangest curvature and creases going on. Look at this, going on right here, and then just dips down in here, creating this weird design in that area. I need to see this in real life and feel it, what is going on with those type of surface areas right there. We still have the L shape in the daytime run light, obviously, and I do like the blacked out housing here. It looks very nice, very cool. Not sure what happens here below the headlight, because we have this cut right here, and then it just stops, and it feels like the headlight could fall down in this black area here because it doesn't have any support of the body color right in this area. It's just one single little piece underneath the headlight that does not have the same support as the rest of the area of the headlight. And we have this then cutting straight down, one straight line down, straight line here as well. We do have the fog lights here, as you can see. I kind of like the front end here with this chisel design that we have. It looks like it reminds me honestly of some militaristic designs. Can't really come up with what it is I'm thinking of, but this area feels like almost feels like a militaristic, like fighter jet stealth like design to me, which is not bad at all, but it doesn't have the fluidity that we have in the old ES. Obviously, that is lost in this design. Now, looking at the side view before looking at the rear and the interior, the side view here, you can clearly see that the height was increased in the new ES. You can see just how much higher it sits, and this is what I'm saying, that it feels like all new EVs or sedans, hybrids these days need to pack a battery pack, which means that we need to raise up the entire vehicle, making it feel like a lifted sedan or something like that. And you can see this black graphic as well, very strange design, and how close it comes to the cut line for the door, making this an area of tension for me. Not a huge fan of that. Don't really know what I would like to change. Maybe just remove this altogether. But we do have the big 21-inch wheels. These has to be the 21s probably. And we also have the black plastic or graphic in the lower section here to remove some of this volume, because if we're going to raise it by 4 inches, the height, we need to do everything we can graphically to bring it closer to the ground. Now, the elegance of the old ES is not intact in the new ES, at least not in my opinion, because this sat a lot lower and we had the stretched out body lines across the entire body, and also a lot more organic lines that we want to see in Lexus. You can see how this connects to this line in the lower section. We also have a line right here, and the greenhouse sits 4.2, I do believe, inches lower, or lower than the new ES, creating this stretched out design that I want to see in big luxury sedans like this, that I don't think is intact in the new ES. Looking at the rear end, this is by far my favorite view for the new ES. This is the view where it looks like a more traditional, proportionally designed sedan, but still, it doesn't have the same fluidity like we have in the old ES up here, which has more of an organic shape to it, of course. And I loved these taillights; they just look beautiful, and we have this wing up top here. But this looks very cool as well. It reminds me of the latest Lexus IS, and that is a great looking design. It's sad that we don't have the L-shape LEDs anymore. It doesn't look like they have the L-shape LEDs here. We just have one single light bar. You can see that it says Lexus right here in the middle, and we have these lines, very typical Lexus lines, going into the center portion of the light bar here, in addition to the roof line that now sits a little bit higher, as we talked about. But this rear end looks way better to me than the front end, and also the side view. This is something I can almost feel still has that automotive design to it that I feel it's lacking in so many car models today. But does it look better than the old one? I mean, in my opinion, I'm gonna have to say no, because I just prefer the the previous generation of car design in general, because I feel like that was what separated car design and automotive design from product design. Now everything is just mixed together in one single category. Now, looking at the interior here, is this an improvement? Totally up to you. I don't know what you think, but if I look at this interior, which one would I sit in for a long time? 100% is going to be the old one. This feels way more cozy, way more warm and welcoming to go into, and in addition to that, we do have the climate settings right here in a separated screen, and the integration of this screen up top, it's not too big, doesn't stick up all the way up to this point right here and something like this. And we have some nice materials in here as well, looking very beautiful. Same goes for this area, nicely designed, curvatures all over this place with some different materials. Same goes for the steering wheel as well. We have this wood insert looking very nice and classy. You have buttons on the steering wheel, you have buttons all over this interior, and we have a nice clean housing for the gauge cluster right there. Now looking at the new one, it becomes a lot more sterile to me. Even details like the steering wheel just does not look as welcoming as the old one. And then of course we have this situation right here where I don't understand what Lexus is doing here with this integration of these two screens. I mean, this is the laziest integration of screens I have ever seen in my life. At least try to make it feel like it's part of the interior. We're losing so much beauty these days when it comes to design in general. This is not what I want to see, specifically not for a luxury brand like Lexus. We do have some buttons down here for like I don't think they're proper buttons, they're just like touch buttons. Just make them regular buttons. But the good news here is that thankfully we still have the housing for the gauge cluster here. It looks like it's a proper housing with some bamboo inspired doors and the rest of the interior. Not a fan personally, but it's totally a matter of taste. For me, I would 100% buy a used ES and be happy with that, both when it comes to the exterior and the interior design.